Hi, everybody. Welcome to Anything But Routine with Allie, my daughter, and myself. And today our special guest is Julie Davidge, who I have known since she was in the 4th grade. So we go way back. I was her dance instructor, but now I have the pleasure of coaching with her. 17 years, maybe? 18. We're starting 18 here. And also, she's worked in our Just for Kicks office for many years in a key position. So we're excited to have her come in. And the reason I asked her is because lately parenting has really been on my mind. I've raised 3 kids myself, you being my youngest, and gone through all the sports and all the different things. And I watched Julie raise her 4 kids. She has 3 daughters and 1 son. And just watching her eloquently go through parenting her kids. I remember Allie asked me one time, like, how do you make sure kids turn out, or you just asked me something like that, and I said, watch whatever Julie does, because I feel like she's a pretty great parent, and the perspective she has it always brings now I'm like, you probably feel pressure now, but we don't feel like we're parenting experts.
Absolutely not. And I feel like I've learned as a parent probably more from the things I've done wrong as the things I do right. So a lot of the things that have come up, or I've seen other people do, it's like, oh, that was a good idea. That should have been the way it's done. But
right, and we've watched, with our coaching experience, you guys being on 18 years and me now starting my 48th year, I've watched a lot of parents, and so we don't profess to be experts, but this would be something dance coaches and dance teachers that maybe, hopefully you could share this podcast with your parents just for some ideas on coaching your kids through the ups and downs of being on a dance team or in another sport.
Or just being in high school and everything in general. It's a really, really hard time of life.
So where should we start with this?
I can just go ahead. I've got a couple topics. But first of all, I think just knowing your kids and following their lead. I think every child is different. Some of them really wants you to be there and be behind them 100% of the time. Other kids, that adds extra pressure. So I think for each of my 4 kids, all of them were very different, and I had to change up what I was doing, and sometimes it was hard. Sometimes I had to step away from things that I really wanted to be more a part of. But I think that's important to know, because the last thing these kids need is pressure. There is so much pressure out there.
So much.
We spend more money. We put them in everything, and I think all of those things, we're there. So they're feeling like they're letting us down if they're not getting to where they think we want them to be. So I think
good point.
Letting that back off. I know back in my day, my parents dropped me off at things. They were very supportive parents, but it just wasn't a thing.
It was different back then.
Practice. They didn't, the minute I got in the car, they didn't ask me 100 questions, and it was just more about, it was my activity, fun for me.
Not their activity.
They were there when I wanted them to be, but it wasn't.
And so many parents try to live through their child.
Well, and I feel like in general, like social media's changed that for parenting, and not just for kids. I feel like we talk a lot about like how social media has changed things for kids, but I also think it's changed things for parents, and that's why parents feel they need to be more involved. It's even funny because we just were talking about hosting a baby shower the other day, and you were like, oh my gosh, it's like so much pressure to do a baby shower, so over the top, and it never used to be that way. Like everything is so over the top right now, and I feel like that's hard on parents too, that they feel like they have to do all of this extra stuff for their kids and be so extra involved because that's what's in your face all the time.
Right.
And that's, you have that pressure to do all of that stuff, and that's why it's hard when you have the child who doesn't maybe want as much to step back. You almost want to apologize and say, but you have to know what's going to be good for your kid, and you need to give yourself permission to do that. So,
like even when you're talking about posting, I have one grandson that's like, you're not going to post that, are you? He doesn't want to be blasted all over social media. And some parents put stuff on there where I'm like, are you sure your kid's not embarrassed with this?
But, and I felt a lot of pressure for my girls. I always thought like I had to be putting stuff on there, and I found out after the fact, they're like, we don't like it. Like, we don't want it. So I hardly ever put anything on there unless it's to kind of show my mom, my mom wants to stay in the loop or whatever. I very seldom post anymore. I thought I was doing it for them, and they were actually like,
I don't want you to do that.
Right.
So
they get embarrassed.
Know your kid.
Know your kid. Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing is just being quite careful about the questions that you ask your dancers. I think it's really, we want to be so involved, and we want our kids to be so happy. And you're excited for them and their new experiences. So I know I have to make myself not do this, but when they get in the car, not to bombard them with 100 questions about, how was it? Did the coach talk to you? Did you get noticed? Did you get in the front row? Did you get to, be in the main play? All of these different things puts pressure on kids because they're
whether
questions.
you know it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
They're questions that the kids can't control. And all of a sudden, they're starting to feel like, oh, did things go wrong? Actually, no, the coach didn't talk to me. All of those things.
Things that they wouldn't have even thought about.
Right.
So if you're asking things more on,
did you have fun?
Did you have fun? How was practice? Was it hard? Things
did you work hard?
Did you work hard?
Mm-hmm.
Who did you sit by? Some of those things that they can control, I think, are better questions. We definitely want to be involved, but try to stay away.
Were you
from
being kind?
Yeah.
I like that.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think you have to know that there are going to be days that they are going to feel so defeated. They are going to come home and they are going to cry. They are going to be frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
They maybe are going to get 5 corrections from different coaches the same day, and no one knows that that's happening. But
sometimes we don't, as coaches, know. Like she said it, I said it, you said it.
We said it. We don't find out till after the fact that we all kind of hit on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because they're wearing a bright color and they get noticed, and other times they go home and they're crying because they didn't get noticed. No one said anything to them the whole practice.
Right.
So they are going to have those days in any sport, and that is actually a good thing because that just shows that they care. And just know that. Actually, this is something that I learned when I was dropping my first daughter off at college. They had said, your kids are going to call, they're going to cry, they're going to sound like the end of the world, they're going to want to come home. They're going to vent to you, they're going to hang up the phone, they're going to walk out and meet their friends in the hallway, and they're going to be fine. You are going to worry about it for 2 weeks until you see them again.
Right.
So you're their venting place, you're their safe place. They are going to be disappointed. You don't have to fix it. Just letting them know tomorrow's another day. Things are tough in life.
Yeah.
This is one of those days that's not the best day. Let's figure out how we can turn it around now, and tomorrow's going to be different. So
and I think as parents, we think we have to fix everything. I do that
She
to
still
you.
does.
I still do that. I'm coming up with solutions for it. And she goes, I know what to do. I'm just
venting. I'm just
venting.
complaining.
Don't try to fix everything. And so we all need to keep that in mind. Don't try to fix everything.
Yep.
Let them navigate their problems. And
I think it's a great thing if your kids come home and can cry and let go to you and like act a little out of control, because you are their safe space. So if they're doing that, it's a great thing because they feel comfortable enough to let go there, and they probably held it together at practice. And then they get home and sometimes they're not rational. They're like, well, the coach hates me. She didn't and they might not really feel that way, but they say those things. And I think you just got to be able to go, okay, they're 15, having a lot of emotions. It doesn't mean that their world's actually ending. They're just really tired and they're busy, and you're their place.
Yep. And I think we all do that probably to our husbands and stuff like that too. You kind of throw everything out there, and if it ever got repeated or whatever, because you sometimes are being selfish and you're all of these things and you know it, but you have to get it off your chest.
Right.
So, and I think that's where, you sometimes will get a call from a parent that says, oh, my daughter would kill me if she knew I was telling you this.
Then probably don't tell us.
Then probably don't, because it probably was a moment that they knew that it was a low moment for them, but they needed a safe place to kind of.
And really, most of that communication should go through the athlete and the parent,
right?
Or the athlete and the coach, not the parent.
Yeah.
I that's a big thing. I'm always like, well, did you tell the coach?
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. So
I think so when they bring those things to you and you want to fix it, I think the big thing is, okay, how should we go about fixing this? How can we make this better? You maybe made the JV team this year and you wanted to be on varsity. What do you want to do about it? And kind of get the dancer's perspective on it, because I think sometimes that gets the ball rolling. It gets them thinking about, well, what do I want to do about it?
Right.
What approaches can I take? And
that's
I think
such a good point.
That's a problem solving. Sometimes it'll be, I just don't think I can keep going through this again, and maybe they want to be done, and that's
you
okay.
get and sometimes quitting. No one wants their kids to be a quitter. But sometimes there becomes a realization that, okay, I don't have the skill needed to be at this level.
And I don't want to be here 6 days a week, 2
if
hours
I'm
a day. It's not
be.
my love, and I'm not that invested, and I'm not, it might not be my thing.
Right.
And you're not fixing it by offering them some real life situation. So, okay, so what does that look like? So that's where I would go. So if they say, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. Okay, so what does that look like? What are you going to do after school? You've been going 24/7 for your entire life. What is that going to look like when you quit? And have them think about that.
Yeah.
Is this going to change friendships? So instead of just going, oh, you're right, let's quit. I think get them thinking about ask questions.
I love that.
And those
That's a
type of
good
things
point.
to get them thinking about what these things are going to look like down the road. And I think as long as they've put the thought into it, if whatever their decision is, and sometimes it's just like, I need to work harder. Sometimes it's like, I need to go back to the basics. Is there a way that we can maybe get an extra instructor or do a private lesson, or should I set up an appointment with the coach to get some more feedback, or whatever those things might be. I think helping them come up with select ideas that they can live with, I think is just asking those questions, I think is huge.
You're just making me think too that I think another kind of pressure that's been out there in general just is like this need to be the best one.
Right.
And I think sometimes like being okay with like you're in dance because you love to dance, not because you wanted to be on varsity, is okay too. And I think really putting that emphasis with your kids on like, are you having fun? Are you working hard? Are you being a great teammate? Those are like the most important things as an athlete, not are you the best dancer on the team? Are you dancing varsity? You know, like, yes, if that's your goal, I'm going to try to help you figure out how to get there. But if you don't, that's okay too. If you don't get to that place by your senior year, that's okay. But are you still having fun dancing? Do you still like to perform? Awesome. Let's do it. Yeah. Nobody's saying you need to be, D1 college dancer to enjoy being a dancer in high school.
Right.
And I think there's so much pressure for that. Like, well, if you're not going to be on varsity, what's the point? Yeah. Well, the point is, do you like to dance and have fun doing it?
90% of these kids are not ever going to go on and do anything in dance down the road.
Right.
They're not. So what are they getting out of it? It's not about dance. It's about the leadership. It's about time management. It's about the social aspects. It's about being a teammate. It's about overcoming obstacles. They can do that regardless of what the level that you're at.
Right.
And I think if you start talking to your kids when they're young about what kind of people you want them to be, and you want them to be kind, and you want them to be, and then you model those things as they're having all of these experiences. Are you still getting some leadership opportunity? You actually might get more leadership opportunity on a JV team than varsity.
Right.
Are you able to be kind to people? All those things. Just as long as they're hitting those things and you keep reinforcing that when these tough things come up, are these still things that you're checking off your list? Yeah, I guess I am. Then that's cool.
I think what is really important in life?
Right.
I think is the biggest thing like we have to ask ourselves as parents, like when you're looking at your child and what their success is, what is an important success? Is it being the best, or is it being a good human being?
Or is it being active and being involved with the team?
Right.
People come to mind to me after coaching this long that they coached their daughters through JV and they made JV a great experience. In Brainerd, our team is a very high level. So sometimes I feel kids end up feeling lesser if they don't make varsity. And I'm like, and I say this all the time, like if you lived there, you probably would be on varsity. But like we're state champions this year. It's kind of a hard level to take, but I want their parents to realize if they don't hit that level, they're okay.
Yeah,
that's
doing
great.
A lot of great.
But I think of 3 parents, and they just come to mind that they were just so pro JV and had their kids go through it and didn't make it a stigma for their kid. And you wonder, is it you that wants them to be on varsity, or is it the kid? So.
And so if you're that involved parent, you have to be equally involved regardless of where they're
level. Right.
And I think getting your kids to celebrate the journey as they're coming up. And, so it's not just about the results that come out of that journey, but they're so reliant on, is this fun? It is not going to be fun it is not fun to have this super hard workout at practice.
Right.
But it's fun looking back and going, I did that. Most people
satisfying.
Would not have done that. So helping them to find that along the way and putting your praise more on, gosh, that must have been really hard to get through that. I am so proud of you for bearing
pushing through
that.
Right.
Or even tryouts are hard. You're putting yourself out there in a really uncomfortable position. A lot of people won't even do tryouts anymore because they're going to have to tell someone they don't make it if they don't.
Hey, I just had lunch with my grade school and junior high friends last week, and here I am coaching a varsity dance group, and I was the one who chickened out trying out for cheerleading. It was just weird being with them because they all talked. Back then they didn't have a dance team. And all of my friends made cheerleading and did it, and I was too scared. Isn't that weird? I was afraid of not making it, and
that's so funny.
It's so weird when I look at myself now. I just didn't have the confidence.
So reinforcing those things along the way, like you gave this a shot. I think is huge, and
Yep.
the little efforts along the way make that as big of a deal as it is.
And I love the point about like it's not always going to be fun because like I know I said earlier like it's about having fun, which it is, but I think sometimes like right now like just in general people are very quick to be like, well, if it's not fun, it's not worth it, quit. You know, I think there's both sides of parenting. There's the push, and then there's the well, if it's not worth it, let's be done, instead of going, wow, you really have pushed through. It's been a hard year.
Yep.
There's a lot of hard working, and hard work is fun after the fact a lot of times. Like it feels good to accomplish things and do things, and I think that's not necessarily celebrated enough.
If hard work is one of your key things that you want your kids to be able to do, you got to praise it as it's going along. And so sometimes the hard work, some of our hardest workers don't always end up on varsity. It's not always going to be an instant, I did this and this is going to be the result, but that's life,
But boy, is that hard work going to take them farther in the regular.
Yes.
And one of the things we say at our parent meeting a lot is whether your child makes varsity or not is not a reflection on your parenting. That has no reflection on you. How you handle it does,
how the child handles it.
And how the child handles it because of how you help them is a reflection on your parenting. So I really think that's important to think about, is your reflection is on how you handle things. And I think we all have moments we look back and go, that wasn't my brightest or my, most valuable moment in my life. And parents, one time Steve and I were sitting at a football game up at Duluth East. I can still remember it. And our first son played football, then our second son played football, and we were watching these parents just go nuts next to us, screaming, and we looked at each other, rookie parent, because we'd already been through it once. And you do get a little better perspective as you go through it. But it's easy to look back at that, obviously. It's hard in the moment.
And I do think I probably parented different because I coach so much.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
I think that's helped me when that mama bear thing starts to kick in. I really quickly take some time and just go, okay, if this was, if I was the coach, right? If I was the coach, how would I approach this?
I've already been doing that with preschool.
The mama bear thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
Yeah.
It's not rational always.
No, the teacher Kate they put Stevie in the car the other day. They said, oh, we just today I partnered her up with a kid because she's kind of been working on her own a lot, and then she put her in the seat and left, and I was like, oh my gosh, is she a loner? Like, is she like not being nice to other kids? Should I ask the teacher? And I'm like, oh my gosh, Allie, you are not asking the teacher. She's fine. The teacher just said she partnered her up with a kid. It's okay.
You start to think of all of those things, and it's,
yeah, you worry, and then it's just silly.
Right. Yeah.
But as a coach, I feel like I maybe would have asked if I wasn't a coach, but then I was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I'm just going to let it be.
Right.
She's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine.
Something else I'll just throw out here, switching gears a little bit, is I think parents are worried to try to make everything perfect for their child.
Yep.
And, I'll use me for an example. We owned a dance company. She could have probably got all the dance where she wanted, but I said no a lot because I didn't want her to be a brat. So I was constantly, no, you can't have that. I feel too many parents try to give kids every single thing they ask for and make it perfect. You can't make your child's life perfect, or guess what? When they get older, they're in for a rude awakening. Their boss isn't going to be perfect. Their job isn't going to be perfect. College won't be. Quit trying to make everything perfect for your child. I'm so happy that my parents were like, well, what did you do? It wasn't the teacher. It wasn't. I know I did that to you too.
Innocent until proven.
Yeah.
Wait,
We always
guilty
say
until proven innocent.
guilty until proven innocent in our house. We don't automatically take the side of the kid. But I think because you're a coach, you take the side of the coach. And
my kids always said the same thing to me, like, I'm your kid. Why are you?
Yeah.
But even I remember like when I would complain about a friend.
I always put the other's perspective, and I always said, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I'm just trying to give the situation from the other side so you can look at the full picture.
You always did that to me too, and I remember feeling really annoyed, like, oh, I'm just venting to you about my friend, but you'd always say, well, were you being nice?
Yeah.
What did you do to make your friend say that? Instead of getting on the bandwagon and making me be like, yeah.
Oh, I know. We've even had parents that, like, inevitably, especially with girls, somebody gets left out.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with kids getting left out? Let your child work it out.
Yeah.
And it's worse right now because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
They would have never known that everybody got together for a party and they weren't invited, but now it's all posted everywhere. So maybe be thoughtful when you hold a party. Don't let them post about it. And when your child's, go ahead.
No, it's just also not everyone's going to get invited to everything.
No.
I mean, that's
Right.
not realistic. Sometimes people are going to do things in groups of 2, and that's,
Right.
you know, not the whole friend group is going to be included. So
Right.
I think
And it's okay for friends to have sleepovers without every friend there.
Right.
Right. And maybe that's a way that they will find a different friend sometimes. And that's okay too. So trying to make everything perfect isn't great. Let your, I can
Trying to help them handle the non-perfect moments.
Yeah, I can think of kids that had almost alienated other kids because their moms were meddling in it so much.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of got like where they on purpose didn't invite. So yeah, stay out of it is what I think. I don't know.
Yep.
How'd you deal with it with 3 girls?
I just tried to really, with not being included type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing for us. I just was like, you're not always going to be included. Like, you sometimes want to hang out with one friend.
Right.
It just wasn't, it was something I just reinforced all along. We just didn't put a lot of weight in whether they're included. Next time, maybe you'll be invited. Did you invite every friend with you every time you go somewhere? No.
And sometimes you figure out there are mean girls and
You can learn how to work with them because you're going to have people you don't really love in the workplace too,
Right.
and that you have to get along with and work with. And
You can sit here and feel sorry for yourself, or you can find a friend to invite over. Do something with someone else. It's okay,
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about coaching and kids dealing with their coach. Any advice there from either of you? Like,
What are you meaning exactly?
well, let's say they're feeling like they're not getting a shot or they're not getting noticed. How do they deal with that? Do they have mom call or?
I really feel like personally as a coach, and even like down to my little kids at studio, I want kids to come talk to me. And I think it's a very scary thing for kids to do. But I really encouraging your child to talk, like if they are like, well, I don't know why the coach is doing this. Encourage your child to ask. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think it's ever going to hurt for them to say, hey coach, I'm confused why this is happening or why I'm not getting this. Like sometimes we think things and we're like, oh, we should talk to that kid or, but we maybe don't do it because you forget or there's a lot going on. And the more that a kid, I tell kids all the time, be a squeaky wheel to me. Like I would rather you come up and constantly be like, what do I need to work on? What can I do? That I think that's really beneficial. And try to avoid, like, I don't ever mind if a parent, asks me anything. That doesn't bother me to an extent. But for the most part, like, if you're confused or the kid is, I would rather know rather than you talking to other parents about it or kids talking to other kids. Like, I would want that question to be asked to me. But I also really feel like the biggest thing as a parent that you can do for your kid is be supportive of their coach in front of your child.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Whether or not you agree with them. Because coaches aren't perfect and they're going to screw up and there's going to be things that you're like, that is so ridiculous how the coach is handling that. But if you say that to your child is not going to be a great athlete to coach because they're not going to trust their coach and they need to trust their coach whether or not their coach makes mistakes.
That's probably one of the greatest points is that, how can you expect kids to respect the coach when you're undermining everything they're doing by talking about them? So if you have something to say, I would say it,
That's where I would rather in those situations, if you're really frustrated or, your perspective of things is one direction, that's when I do want the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I really want you to talk to me about it because chances are, first of all, you're getting half of the story, not the full story. There's probably a lot of different sides. But second of all, if I did do something wrong, that allows me to see it from your athlete's standpoint, and maybe it wasn't handled, maybe it wasn't communicated properly.
We've definitely had that happen.
I remember the year we did really poor communication. I'm thinking in Gaga year, and
without because when you start undermining what the coach is saying to your child, it's hard for them to have that respect and bring that back in.
And the way I turn that around is I always say to parents, like, we won't undermine your parenting decisions. It'd be like us going, well, gee, I can't believe you're making
your parent is making you go home at 11 o'clock. I would let you stay out till midnight.
You stay out till midnight. Or I can't believe that she's that strict, or I can't believe she's this way. Think how you'd feel if we undermine your parenting decisions. That's how we feel as coaches. And something else I would just say, have your kids say thank you. Teach your kids to be grateful for all the time you're spending with their child. It's a lot of time. Like, be grateful for that. And
it's funny because I can think of kids that come up and say thank you at the end of every practice.
Quinn.
Yep, she always did. I feel like I can think of other kids at studio right now that come up and say thank you. Actually, a lot of kids lately have been really great about saying thank you as they walk out of the room.
It's contagious, for sure.
Yeah.
It is.
Because when some kids see other kids saying thank you, then they do. But
I feel like more so this year, I've been noticing it.
Awesome.
Than the last few years, I have a lot of kids doing that.
So I think that's really important, is to teach your kids to be grateful and for parents to be grateful. It's hard to get coaches right now because it's a tough job. I had to laugh. I was at the studio the other day and I had a mom say to me, her daughter had been coaching. She's a mom I had 3 years ago and now I have her grandkids. And she's like, oh, so-and-so was going to coach, but the parents were so awful. She's not doing it this year. And I kind of chuckled to myself and going, it's tough being a coach. It's tough. You get people saying things to you that, And
I think to just trust the coaches, I think, is the biggest thing I can say. I think it is a common misconception is the coach has an out for someone or whatever. I can speak for I've known a lot of coaches over the years. We want as many good athletes as we possibly can get. That is going to make our team better. It is right. It does not serve us in any way to ignore someone, to not like someone.
We're pushing for them and gunning for them.
Yeah. If we can have more super talented athletes, that's better for us, not worse. So it's in our best interest to raise these kids up. So typically, if there's an issue, it's a communication thing, but we are working with these kids to get them to that next level. And I think if you have your athletes coming home and saying that they're not challenged or they're not noticed, first of all, your coaches are doing their best to notice everyone. If they don't feel noticed, have them come up and talk to you, like you said, Ellie. And I think if they're telling you they're not challenged at their current level, I think your question has to be why. Why are you not challenged? Because that is, as a coach, one of the biggest red flags to me when they say they're not challenged at the level that they're at.
For instance, if they don't make varsity and they're like, well, JD's not challenged me, or at the studio they don't make the A team, and they say,
my biggest frustrating question or comment. It drives me crazy.
What happens sometimes is those kids shut down. If I'm only on JV, I only have to practice to this level. And if you talk to your kids about, okay, so if you're coming in and trying out for a dance team, you've already got juniors and seniors or older kids or kids that have been around. They're already kids here. They're new to the team that are at a higher level than them. And they come on, they need to work to catch up to this level. They're going to have to work harder. And instead what happens with kids is sometimes if they get on that JV, I'm the only JV, I don't have to work push as hard.
They shut down.
There's no JV coach in the world that doesn't want their JV to work hard. They have never ever said, we're not going to do this hard workout today because we don't want you to get strong and flexible. They want
and we're not going to push you quite as hard because you're on JV.
But then the other thing I want to say is
they mentally do shut down a little bit. They sometimes work at a different level. So when they're saying,
for sure, 100%.
When they're saying that they're not challenged there, ask them, why are you not challenged? Why are you not pushing to that next level? If they feel like they need to talk to the coach and say, hey, I want to do harder workouts, go do that. Maybe the coach isn't getting that vibe and they can help pull the team along, but my guess is that coach is wanting that to be happening.
And I laugh when they say they're not challenged, because what I would say is, well, then challenge yourself.
Right.
You're in charge of your own destiny. If you're doing this, do 10 more. If you're...
Right, and I think, when it comes back to I'm not doing hard enough stuff, I can look at our elite level kids and go, they have technical things to fix. If I put them in a beginner class, they should be able to be dripping sweat if they leave a beginner class because they're working so hard and focusing so hard on their basics.
Yeah.
That there's no, when a kid tells me, well, it's not hard enough, I'm like, okay, that's your own personal problem then, because you're not focusing on what you need to be focusing on then.
The things that typically are separating kids from moving to that next level are usually things like their strength, their flexibility, and their work ethic. So those things can be accomplished. You can work on flexibility. You're all kicking. So you keep working, kicking higher in JV versus varsity. That makes no difference whether you're kicking in JV or you're kicking in varsity. That strength factor, that's on your
How hard you push when you're doing
pushing
that
when you're
stuff.
doing those things, and those workouts are being done in both places. Your leaps can get higher regardless of whether
Turns.
you're in JV or varsity, but a lot of it comes down to those basic technique things that kids are unwilling to go back and fix.
Well, I laugh that, or not laugh, but Amber Struzik Jackson, that coached U of M, she came and worked with our team once years ago, and somebody was acting a little like they were too good for it, and she goes, the U of M goes back to basics. The University of Minnesota goes back to basics, so can all of you, you know.
Right.
And I think every athlete needs to remember that.
Yeah, and a lot of those kids that don't progress and don't progress and don't progress,
It's
it's
because
because
of
they're
that.
unwilling to go back and do some of the basic pirouettes and make sure their technique is right.
It comes
It's
back
kinda
to
like-
details a lot.
And it's hard to switch. Like, I use the golf for an example. Like, if you have to go back and fix your swing, it's just hard because you're starting over, and it's the same thing here.
You take a step back before you take a step forward sometimes.
I just want to talk about another thing too, is becoming, and you might remember this as a parent, but when your child becomes a senior, try to step back and not think that the sun rises and sets on the seniors. It's not about the seniors, it's about the team. And
Yep.
I can't, we changed that quite a while ago in Brainerd, that we don't have like, oh, seniors get off the bus first, seniors do this, seniors do that. No, it's the team. And I actually had a guy come in and speak and said, if you're letting seniors go through the line first, they should be being gracious and letting the underclassmen go through the line. So senior parents that are trying to make everything perfect for their senior year, think about the team, not the seniors.
I think with the kids, it's hard. Like, I think sometimes even the dancers or the athletes get to their senior year and are like, this is it, everything has to be perfect, and they put weird pressures on themselves.
Yeah.
And they change and get weird, and you'll hear underclassmen say, oh my gosh, the seniors are on a really big power trip right now, they're being really mean, they're trying to get controlling over strange things that they never used to care about. So
We
trying
hear
to
it at
help
camp
them,
a lot.
trying to help them, navigate, like, this year is no different. Yes, it's your last year, enjoy it. Be a great person to be remembered. Like, you want your teammates to remember you in a really positive way. How can you do that? How can you help these underclassmen feel part of the team? Good
Leadership is about bringing people up with you, and I think if you even put yourself into your workplace. Do you like, a management or a boss that comes in and says, I'm the boss? They're constantly
Right.
announcing they're the boss. I get the special I get the special chair, I get the special everything.
Yeah, when seniors
but
do
doesn't
that.
pay attention on bringing the other people up with them.
Right.
I think if
And
you're
some-
a good senior leader, it's about bringing those younger kids up with them.
And not pointing out that you're a senior.
Yeah.
But I think parents, sometimes are doing that to the kids because they're
This is your senior year. You should get what you want. Yeah.
right. And so just make sure, and parent groups, I know some years with our parents, we've gone, okay, reel it in, people. Like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because, last year was a great senior year because we just didn't have that much drama or anything happening. They just kind of went about their business. What I'm meaning is sometimes parents are like, we have to do this many goodie bags, and we have to make posters, and we have to do this many things, and they have to have the best costume, and, let it go a little bit.
Sometimes the best way, and I think back to parents, we put so much pressure on yourself. You're trying to be the best parent you can be, and I think when you get to be a senior, you have a senior parent, you're like, this is my last year with this child, and so you're wanting it to be so good, and you're wanting to do everything you can. And at that point in their life, they're pretty independent, so you're having to get creative and figuring out how you're going to be a part of their life. So I think that's where some of it stems from.
Probably,
but
yeah.
I think even the little things that you do, like, oh, it was a long practice today, I brought you a protein shake or a chocolate milk for after practice, or those little things are going to be more helpful than the beautiful poster that you made.
Write them a little note.
Yeah,
I'm really
those
proud of
little-
how hard you've been working.
Those type of things, I think, are the things that at the end of the day
They need, yeah.
Well, we got to wrap up, so thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Jules.
Thank you, and I hope this helps parents navigate the tough, anything in sports. Being a
Parenting your
sport
child
parent
through.
is tough. It is tough. So
And you're learning every day, and it keeps changing. Once you think you figure it out, then you get something else thrown at you.
right. Well, good luck. Thank you.